We begin tonight, Joe Biden's disastrous first trip abroad, now entering week 2. And Europe's leaders, they are elated. Under Biden, there's no tough love. There's no America first. There's no accountability. There are no difficult conversations, no negotiations. America last policies. As Joe keeps saying, America's back. America last is back. America paying the bills for the world, that's back. And President Sippy Cup just wants everyone to go along and get along. And as a result, the world is once again taking advantage of Biden's tremendous, clear weakness and utter stupidity. Remember, it wasn't that long ago, President Trump, yeah, he went to NATO, he took charge, and he stood up for you, the American people, and he made them uncomfortable, and they had to pay their fair share. Take a look.
I have been very, very direct with Secretary Stoltenberg and members of the alliance in saying that NATO members must finally contribute their fair share and meet their financial obligations.
No, now NATO alliance members, now they're helping make Vladimir Putin and Russia rich again, doing billion-dollar energy deals, well, thanks to Joe's waiver for Vladimir. As a result, President Trump's tough rhetoric and actions, our NATO allies, they had to step up. They ended up contributing a lot more. New trade deals were brokered with the UK and EU, free and fair trade. Trump withdrew from the insane Paris Climate Accords that does nothing to hold China and India accountable because they're classified in the Paris Accords as developing countries. Now, all while sending your tax dollars abroad and making you pay for pretty much all of it, some kind of global penance for our evil, polluting ways when we reduce more greenhouse gases than any country on earth. Unsurprisingly, the climate-obsessed socialists of Europe, they don't want to pay their fair share. They much prefer Joe Biden, who cares more about their approval than the well-being of you, the American people. But to be honest, it's not clear that Joe Biden still, frankly, possesses the strength, the energy, and the ability to even know what the word tough means. Joe Biden once referring to Putin as a killer, but now ahead of his meeting with Russia's hostile president, the tough talk nowhere to be found. He even publicly agreed to consider a prisoner exchange, something immediately his handlers had to backtrack on. And today, Joey couldn't seem to find the words to say anything at all about Vladimir. Take a look.
Vladimir Putin laughed at the suggestion that you had called him a killer. Is that still your belief, sir, that he is a killer?
To answer the first question, I'm laughing too. They actually, well, look, I mean, he has made clear that the answer is, I believe he has in the past essentially acknowledged that he was, there are certain things that he would do or did do.
For those of you in the media mob that get angry when I call him Sippy Cup, that's exactly why I call him Sippy Cup. He needs his warm milky, night-night, nappy time, warm milky, sippy cup time. It is humiliating. Russia is responsible for 2 major cyber attacks against our country in recent weeks, Joe. It's, you know, it is supplying America's enemies like Iran with weapons technology and funding so they can fight a proxy war worldwide on terror against the #1 state sponsor of terror. Their aggressive actions in the Middle East, around the world, are endangering American soldiers. But Joe Biden is at the loss for words. I'm sitting there, I'm going, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1. Come on, Joey, you can do it. Make no mistake, Russia is a hostile regime. Putin is a hostile actor. Yes, Joey, he's a killer and he's a thug. And Sippy Cup, well, he doesn't even have the strength, the mental fortitude to ever hold him accountable for anything. This meeting is going to be a disaster. How weak, Putin will see firsthand how weak Joe is. And what we've all been witnessing that the media mob protects Joe from, we know he's a mere shell of the man he was even 5 years ago. Make no mistake, Putin loves a weak America and a weak American president. And, of course, there won't be a joint presser with Putin following the summit. Oh, can't put Joey in that position. Whatever Biden says about Putin after the meeting, they wrote that before they ever went on this trip. I guarantee you it's already been written. Joe is afraid. His staff is afraid. They are worried that what Joe says in private, he would never say in public, and he'll just give us talking point lies after they meet alone, because he's afraid to say it in front of Putin, in front of the world. They're worried Putin will upstage him, because he will, and make him look bad, because he will. And they're worried that Biden will be humiliated yet again on the global stage, as if this weekend wasn't embarrassing enough. Just take a look at the past few days. Joe has been an embarrassing international laughingstock. This was a great moment. At one point, Europe's leaders all mocking Joe right to his face after he became incredibly confused during a meeting. And then he had to, well, tell the Prime Minister of Great Britain, well, maybe you should introduce the President of South Africa. I already did, Joe. Take a look.
Say how pleased I am to welcome those who have just joined us, bringing some pretty spectacular weather with them. President Ramaphosa, and the President of South Africa, and the President of South Africa, as I said earlier. Oh, you did? I certainly did.
You're going to mention twice. So.
I'll go over that again. Let me tell you, we're delighted. Mr. President, I'm glad to say we're joined by Prime Minister Modi.
Let's go.
I hate, this isn't even funny anymore. That wasn't the only moment of confusion. There were a lot. Biden mixed up Libya and Syria. He did it 3 consecutive times in less than 90 seconds. That has to be a record. Not one to be fond of, but a record nonetheless. Take a look.
We could work together with Russia. For example, in Libya, we should be opening up the passes to be able to go through and provide food assistance and vital assistance to a population that's in real trouble. The rebuilding of Syria, of Libya, they're there. I'm hopeful that we can find an accommodation where we can save the lives of people for example, in Libya.
Is there a betting line about Kamala Harris taking over? I know where I'd bet. Once again, his handler is forced to issue another clarification, and it gets worse. During those same remarks, at times, his comments made absolutely no sense whatsoever, and I'm not making this up. Take a look.
500 million doses of Pfizer vaccine, which we contracted and paid for. In addition to money we put into the COVID project, which is that COVID is, I know you all know, but a lot of people may not know what COVID is. By harassing the full potential of those who are harassing, we're going to have to change things. That's the whole idea.
Who on earth doesn't know what COVID is? This is why the administration works overtime to limit Biden's off-script public interactions. Even the First Lady doing her part over the weekend, she literally jumped in and dragged Joe away when he seemed to be in the wrong cafeteria to prevent him from answering an impromptu question. And yet again, at a press conference, Joe admitted, I'm not supposed to answer too many questions. They won't let me. Okay, take a look.
Thank you.
The European allies. Can I ask a question about the European allies?
I'm going to get in trouble with my staff. Yeah, go ahead, but I pretend that you didn't answer you.
Thank you very much, sir. You have often said repeatedly that America is back.
Yes.
At the same time, you've kept in place some Trump-era steel and aluminum sanctions. And I wanted to ask you, when you're having these conversations with European allies who are very concerned about these sanctions, how do you justify that? And what are your plans to
120 days. Give me a break. Need time.
Come on, man. Are you a junkie? I expected that to come flying out. Joey You're the president. You've been in office for 145 days, and you can answer as many questions as you want. This is frankly beyond concerning because tonight America is entering an extremely challenging period. There are major growing threats abroad. China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, just to name a few. At the same time, there are new serious problems right here at home. Massive inflation, violent crime on the rise, homelessness on the rise, lawlessness at our southern border, aided and abetted by Joe. These are serious challenges. Joe is clearly not up to this job. He puts all of his effort into just getting through the day, barely. His radical socialist base is clearly running the show. Case in point, the biggest development from Joe's Europe trip, an agreement to consider a global corporate tax rate, which, of course, corporations don't pay taxes. They pass them on to you. And Joe knows that corporations will leave the U.S., so he's trying to conspire with the world's other socialist countries to ensure there's no tax haven country to ever exist. This will end in a worldwide economic disaster. As a matter of fact, the entire trip, and they were just touching, this is the tip of the iceberg. An unmitigated failure, and it's only going to get worse. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.